Hello, everyone, and welcome back. As always, I'm your girl, Candy Washington. So, before we dive into today's episode, which is Dorit Kemsley being busted by Carlos King? We all know Carlos King. He is an ex-producer of The Real Housewives of Atlanta and perhaps even Potomac, maybe a little bit of New Jersey in there too. We know that he's also the executive producers of a bunch of shows on OWN, like Love and Marriage Huntsville and Love and Marriage DC. So we know Carlos King, and he also has, his podcast and YouTube channel and all of that. He is coming out with some exclusive tea. He is on his Jeff Lewis right now, which is everybody coming for Dorit's neck and claiming that she and PK are faking this split and divorce just for a Bravo check. And a lot of things that he says, because I'll play the clip and we'll get more into it. I think he's right. Again, this is for entertainment alleged, but my opinion is that he is spot on and he's right, and now things are adding up. And I'm also going to say why I think Kathy Hilton's reaction to a lot of things might be proof that these allegations are true. Might be, because again, this is all alleged. But before we dive in, go ahead and like, subscribe, and share. So let's start out with the nitty gritty. Let's watch the clip of what Carlos said, and then we'll get into breaking it down.
Allegedly, Dorit being told that allegedly Dorit and PK is fooling the audience with this divorce storyline based on his alcoholism, which is why Dorit is telling everybody, including the post office guy, the milkman, and her gardener, that PK has a drinking problem. And it's because they need this money. And they're so dire in funds, allegedly, that Dorit has nothing to lose. And she has to make sure she is the marquee name of this show so that they can get money. And I was told the reason why Kyle said to Dorit in the first episode in their sit down, who are you? Why are you acting like that? They feel like Kyle understands that Dorit is desperate to keep this job and keep her check, that she is going to expose some very confidential things that Kyle has said to her in their private moments.
Okay. And just to add on to that, number one, now a lot more is making sense. Remember in the last episode where Kyle and Dorit are having that intense conversation at dinner, and Kyle's like, I never thought that you were that girl that would spill my secrets that I told you in private. Like, I never thought that you would be that girl. And Dorit's like, well, you're on all of these podcasts and interviews and all of this, telling everybody and acting like I am that girl, blah, 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 blah. Now it makes sense why they're talking about that, because in my mind, I was like, why is Kyle worried that Dorit's going to spill her secrets? And that things that she said in confidence when they're just allegedly beefing over BravoCon, over Morgan, over, being iced out, weird, dumb little stuff that doesn't even matter. Why would then she say that? And I think it also started with the text message. You know how Dorit showed Kyle's private text message at the reunion in order to save her skin and to save her diamond? Because let's be honest, Dorit had nothing going on. Garcelle was on her neck like nobody's business. Erica pretty much had left her out to dry. Kyle left her out to dry. Nobody cared about the fake robberies, the fake PTSD, allegedly. She had nothing, and she knew she was on a shopping block. So what did she do? She threw Kyle under the bus by revealing a private text message. So maybe Kyle's like, you're willing to do that? What else are you willing to do and to sacrifice in order to keep your diamond? Because I know that you guys are having all these money troubles. Don't forget, their house allegedly is in pre-foreclosure because they've missed 4 mortgage payments. Now, if you have children, and even if you don't have children, even just for your own safety and well-being, that is a stressor. That's a big stressor. Not being able to pay the mortgage where your children and yourself live, that's a big deal. But, it's sort of like what Jennifer Tilly said. Well, who's paying the Beverly Hilton, hotel bill for PK? But let's break it down a little bit more. Now, this is according to Taste of Reality. It says, are Dorit, Kemsley, and PK Kemsley fooling Real Housewives of Beverly Hills fans with PK's allegedly fake alcoholism storyline? Former Roar producer Carlo King thinks so. Also, Kyle Richards worries she may be her former bestie's target. Not chic. According to Carlos, allegedly Dorit and PK are fooling the audience with this divorce storyline based on his alcoholism. The podcaster reasoned Dorit is telling everybody, including the post office guy, the milkman, and her gardener, that PK has a drinking problem. If PK really had a problem with alcoholism, Carlos doesn't think Dorit would be so vocal about it. And again, their whole story about alcoholism didn't make any sense. She's like, he's a full blown alcoholic, and that's why we are separating. But he was like, I got sober, I got clear, I have a sober life coach, and that's when I decided that I wanted to separate from Dorit. So she's saying it was because of his drinking, and he was saying because he wasn't drinking. So even that doesn't make any sense. Also, if you clock the conversation that PK and Mauricio had, if you view it now, the lens of what Carlos King is saying, that they're faking this, PK said to Mauricio, I'm really inspired by, or I'm really looking at, how you and Kyle are navigating your split, your divorce. Maybe that's code for, I saw how, you and Kyle splitting up was huge news, huge fodder, a huge storyline that I'm going to do the same. I'm going to say that I'm splitting up for Dorit so that I can be, the storyline, a big fodder, something to talk about, something to shake the table about. Because let's be honest, Dorit should have been fired from The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. She's been coasting since season 7. And now she's activated because she can A, no longer coast, and B, she needs that check. And this makes a lot more sense too, because we were talking about this in our last video, that we were talking about PK and Dorit and their separation. And I had always said that if they were to separate, this was before they announced the separation, I always thought it would be Dorit leaving PK. That she's like, I got my new face, I got my new body, I got my 15 minutes of fame on Bravo, I got my little Bravo check, I'm ready to upgrade. I want a guy who's younger, hotter, richer, right? That's what I always thought it would be. But then for it to come out that she's claiming PK is the one who wants the separation, and even though she's claiming he's the raging alcoholic, didn't make a lot of sense to me. Didn't make a lot of sense. And I also said last season about money and everything and their children is they had the whole thing about she wanted to homeschool the kids and he wanted them to go to public school. Now, when you are in the world that they try to be in, but apparently it's a bunch of fraud and smoke and mirrors, when you try and be in that world, you send your children to private school unless you don't have the money. You know what I mean? And I called that. I said the reason why Dorit wants to homeschool is because she's too prideful, too egotistical to send them to public school. And the reason why PK wants to send them to public school is because he still wants them to have social, you know, social integration, societal, be able to work into, social integration by going to school and being around people, but they can't afford private school. So I think in PK's mind, he's like, well, you know what? I want my children to grow up around people, still be able to be sociable, not isolated at home. We can't afford public school. Let's just send them to private school. But Dorit, keeping up with the Joneses, Dorit, every label in the world, Dorit, would rather homeschool her kids than admit that she can't afford private school. That's what I really think was going on there. So their finances have been in shambles. Okay, so what's the motive? Carlos believes Dorit and PK are living this lie because they need this money. I agree 100%. They are in so dire need of funds, allegedly, that Dorit has nothing to lose. She has to make sure that she's the marquee name of the show so they can get money. How does Kyle fit into Dorit's alleged plan? I was told the reason why Kyle said to Dorit, who are you? Why are you acting like that? Carlos explained the POV of a producer to his listeners. Producers feel like Kyle understands that Dorit is desperate to keep this job and keep her paycheck. She's going to expose some very confidential things that Kyle has said to her in private moments. Again, I agree with this. It makes sense. And again, we talked about the whole conversation. You're not that girl, whatever. And then also think about Kathy Hilton's behavior around this. Kathy's always like, I'm neutral. I'm not picking sides when they always talk about Kyle and Dorit, because I think Kathy knows, and so does Kyle, Dorit is acting crazy and psycho and activated and on fire. And like a super bitch, according to Jeff Lewis. I'm not calling her that. That's what he said. Because she needs the money. And because she needs to stay on Bravo and she needs the check and she is going to do everything she can. This also makes sense why Kathy said, oh, I think Kyle and Dorit will be fine. They were fine at my Christmas party. So maybe Kyle's playing into it a little bit too. Maybe two things can be true. Maybe Kyle is scared that Dorit is so desperate for storyline, so desperate for relevancy, that she will throw her former bestie under the bus. Because Dorit is acting like Kyle saying that they weren't that close on Amazon Live. She's acting like, Kyle, stole her firstborn and is, busting it open for PK. She's so distraught over an Amazon Live. You're not that I think Kyle is more pissed about BravoCon than Dorit is pissed about Amazon Live. Like, come on, Dorit doesn't care. She's just using that as an excuse to be activated and to feud with Kyle. She also knows that this is the climate to do it. This is the climate of vile Kyle, goodbye Kyle, everybody's tired of Kyle. And I get it, because trust me, I have had my issues with Kyle, obviously not personally, just from watching the show. So I totally understand that sentiment, what she's done. So I get it. So the climate is ripe to be feuding with Kyle. Now, I wonder if the audience's collective feeling of Dorit will change if it turns out that Carlos King is right and she and PK are making this up just for that paycheck. Could be. Or on the flip side, maybe they were always kind of separated. Who knows? Apparently he was living at the hotel for a long time, and now they're just using it. So it's not that big of a devastation. Now they're just telling the truth about it. Who knows? So yeah. So let's see. So Dorit and Kyle's friendship status, it's all good. So this is the thing. I want you guys to drop your opinions down below, your theories and your guesses. Are you like me and you agree with Carlo King's, tea that Dorit and PK are allegedly lying about their split, that Dorit is pretending to be this activated and pissed off at Kyle because she wants to keep her Bravo check. They are in dire need of money, and they are doing whatever they have to do to make ends meet. I think it makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot more sense of their whole separation. Their, contradicting storylines about his alcoholism, contradicting storylines about who wanted the separation, contradicting storylines about a lot of stuff. So put it down below. Let me know what you guys think. And as always, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. So with that, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.